US President Joe Biden's cognitive decline has been well documented across the Western world. But his progressing age and frailty are made even more obvious on the world stage when he stands side by side with world leaders who display the physical strength and cognitive sharpness which he lacks. Sky News All Stars Rita Panahi, Paul Murray and Liz Storer take a look at Biden's international gaffes and ask whether the president is an asset or a burden to America on the world stage. Presidents of the United States have historically been the picture of strength, much like America itself. Kennedy, Roosevelt, and even Trump stood tall and strong and demanded the best for the US and its people on the world stage. Fast forward to today, and President Joe Biden is struggling to command the respect of a great American statesman from the rest of the world. He trips, falls asleep, and can't seem to string a sentence together in many of his public appearances, which many see as dangerous.
Here's our issue, is that while this is embarrassing for Americans, it's dangerous for the world. Because we're not the only ones seeing this, and while we're looking at it, being concerned about what it means, people, the bad actors around the world, whether it be China or Russia or Iran, North Korea, realize that America does not have a president who is functional in important ways.
And it seems like the White House are well aware of Joe Biden's inadequacies, aiming to keep him out of the spotlight as much as possible.
The 11 most poisonous words I read every Friday afternoon, Jesse, are, quote, "The vice president has nothing on her public schedule this weekend. Check it out." And look, I think that for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to be on vacation so much, this is his 150th day in Delaware since he's become president. That's pretty remarkable. I think they've become the vacation czar and vacation czarina. And it comes at a time when majorities of Americans say they're suffering, they can't pay the bills, they're truly pessimistic and worried about their own economic situation and that of the nation. And you just don't see enough activity from our president and our vice president.
This week in London, Joe Biden embarrassed himself by speaking with a royal guard even after being ushered away by King Charles.
Well, the world is still spinning, which means Joe Biden is still embarrassing the United States on the world stage. This week he was in the UK visiting the King's Royal Guard. Now, everybody knows the Royal Guard speak to no one other than the King. Everyone knows that, of course, except Joe Biden, much to the King's dismay.
And still in the UK, commentators labelled Joe Biden as anti-British after he failed to attend the King's coronation.
I still think he should have found time to come to the coronation. I think that's a retrograde step. But he actually only visited Northern Ireland for less than 20 hours. He came in, stayed overnight, opened the new University of Ulster, and then went straight to the Irish Republic. Hardly indicates that he's particularly serious about Northern Ireland, compared to, say, Bill Clinton, who spent day after day here. So, fleeting visit, to put it mildly. Once you see him, now you don't.
To add fuel to the fire, Joe Biden struggled to pronounce the name of UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
And whether it's the United Kingdom or just today, we've got news that Rishi Sunak is now the Prime Minister. As my brother would say, go figure.
And it's not only the Brits who have seen Joe Biden at his most fragile. Sleepy Joe was on display to the world at the COP26 climate conference, where he literally fell asleep, according to Sky News All-Star Liz Storer.
Referring to the many situations in which Sleepy Joe, as he loves to call President Joe Biden, has actually fallen asleep. Here it is to trigger your memory.
This is my message from Earth to Pop. On behalf of we the 15, I ask you.
Now we're told that he was just resting his eyes. But the full extent of that clip actually goes for much longer, and that aide wasn't there to remind him of anything. That aide was there to wake him up.
Arguably, the people the US needs to show the most strength to are the Saudis. But Joe Biden gaffed his way through that tour as well, says Sky News All-Star Peter Stefanovic.
In July this year, to great fanfare, the president travelled to the Middle East to meet the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, despite pledging to make it a pariah over its shocking human rights record and for its involvement in the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. That was all tossed aside as Biden fist-bumped Mohammed bin Salman as he tried to repair relations between the two nations and to get the Saudis to commit to increasing oil production so the high prices would come down. What did the Saudis think of that? And by extension, Biden? Not much. Oil production group OPEC, with the Saudis as its de facto leader, decreased output by 2 million barrels a day just ahead of the peak winter season. Saudi Arabia is picking its friends. It seems the US is not one of them.
And the Biden administration's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan will forever haunt his legacy on the world stage, argues Sky News host Rita Panahi.
It is the one-year anniversary of the Biden administration's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, and who can forget President Biden exactly a year ago making this promise?
Americans should understand that troops might have to be there beyond August 31st.
No, Americans should understand that we're going to try to get it done before August 31st.
But if we don't, the troops will stay.
If we don't, we'll determine at the time who's left.
And
if there are American forces, if there's American citizens left, we're going to stay till we get them all out.
Kosher, he's had plenty of failures as president, but right up there, leaving behind Americans and Afghan allies in Afghanistan as the Taliban took control. I mean, that has got to be a failure that will haunt his presidency. It's part of his legacy.
The Russia-Ukraine war has monopolised much of the international affairs of the Biden administration. But Joe Biden still struggles to work out who the main players are.
But first, let's check in with the leader of the free world, the sharp as a tack president who is in no way suffering from dementia or any sort of cognitive decline.
There was no way we were ever going to unite Ukraine. I mean, excuse me, Iraq, Afghanistan. No way that was going to happen.
Is it any wonder Biden's poll numbers are circling the drain?
I think the context is that whether or not they're pulling back from Fallujah and from the Kherson, the city of Kherson.
Let's check in with the leader of the free world who has trouble identifying his Ukrainians from his Iranians. And now he has Russia and Ukraine confused.
How do we get to the place where, Putin decides he's going to just invade Russia? Nothing like this has happened since World War II.
Joe, Putin invaded Ukraine, not Russia. He's president of Russia. He has not invaded Russia. It's the smaller country next door.
And it's not only Russia and Ukraine. Joe Biden struggled to distinguish between China and Canada too.
I applaud China for stepping up. I applaud Canada. You can tell what I'm thinking.
And it's not only verbal gaffes. Biden is showing worrying physical signs of cognitive decline, which make him and the US vulnerable to the world.
The president is not well, and that's genuinely very sad. Watch as he twice tries to shake the hand of someone who isn't there.
תודה לנשיא המדינה ולנשיא ארצות הברית. Thank you, President Herzog.
It is so sad, but it is also more terrifying.
Joe Biden tripped up. It was interesting timing for him, if we can have a look at that. That was when he was at this function at the Mangrove Forest. It's about climate change and ecology. And that was with Joko Widodo there. Not great timing when Donald Trump's announcing.
And when he's not tripping or stammering his way around the globe, Joe Biden is making creepy comments, says Sky News All-Star Paul Murray.
While in Bali, he was totally distracted by the physique of a bloke.
By the way, very much worried about this guy's biceps. His biceps are big as my calf. Look at this. There's a man. I hope we're on the same side.
And even when he's told the man is a Russian, this was his reaction.
So he's Russian.
I don't care who he is. He's got some real biceps. He called them guns.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a stutter.